Hey everyone, I have just got finished filming this course on using GraphQL. We build our own GraphQL server. We use that with a Next.js API route. We do queries, we do mutations, and it's a really fun project. It looks really bad, kind of on purpose. I didn't really want to spend too much time going into the styling and design of the website. But yeah, we created our GraphQL server from scratch just with the help of Apollo micro server. And yeah, we created all of our types, we made our resolvers, and yeah, hopefully it will be a great insight into GraphQL. The app itself is relatively simple. We can add cards to the website, as you can see here, and we can then view cards like so. And you know, it's very basic functionality, but we actually tie in some really interesting tools. So I hope you like this video. Please, if you do, drop me a comment. Any feedback is really appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Lots of great videos coming out over the next few weeks. Okay, so let's take a look at what we're actually going to be building this with. So we're going to be building the application with Next.js. We're going to be using and building our own GraphQL server, and that's going to be run on a Next.js API route. We're going to be using this Apollo server micro to do that. And our database is going to be using Prisma. So hopefully you know what those things are. GraphQL is a query language. We're not going to see the benefits of GraphQL in this project because it is rather simple. However, you know, being able to build a simple project will take us on to building more complicated projects. So yeah, if you're not familiar with GraphQL, the more complex your project gets, I think the more it pays off to be using GraphQL. I think development is quicker with GraphQL than it is with a REST API anyway, even for relatively simple projects. It's not slowing me down by configuring a GraphQL server. I think it takes more time configuring lots of different individual API routes and things like that. So basically, we're going to have one GraphQL API route. We're going to write different queries and mutations that will allow us to query. And, you know, if you think queries are GET requests and mutations are POST requests, we're going to write lots of different queries and mutations so we can do things in lots of different ways, query data in different ways with getting different data. However, it all goes to the same endpoint. So we're not going to be making multiple API requests on a page. So let's, and I think an important thing as well is that, you know, Next.js, if you're statically generating a website, then that doesn't really matter. But if you're doing server-side rendering or client-side data fetching at all, then, you know, that's going to make a big difference in your website. Apollo server micro, the npm package is going to give us a GraphQL server essentially, and we're going to use this from the GraphQL endpoint that we create. Prisma is an ORM. It allows us to write database queries like this. It's strongly typed, works amazingly with Next and TypeScript, and yeah, it's really quick to get up and running as well with SQLite. So yeah, let me stop talking and let's start writing some code. So what I'm going to do, we're going to be using Tailwind CSS for our styling. So I'm just going to use this example from Next, which already has that configured. And then let's just call it Next GraphQL business card. Yeah, it's a bit of a mouthful, but not to worry. So essentially what we're going to be doing, the first step, we're going to configure our schema for the database. So we're going to declare our model. And we're then going to run a migration with Prisma that will create our SQL database for us. It will create the table in there. Then what we're going to do is we're going to integrate that with GraphQL, and we're going to write our queries and mutations. And then finally, we are going to use those on the front end. Next, GraphQL business card. Let me open this up in a code editor. So yeah, the queries and things that we write, we're going to use those on the front end as the last step. So the first thing I'm going to do, let me just change this over to TypeScript project, like so. And I can do those TSX actually. And this is going to be, we're going to change the name of the API endpoint, just GraphQL.TypeScript. And we can just get rid of everything in that. And then when we try and run our dev server now, it's going to give us what we need to install the types. And then it will generate our TypeScript config file for us as well. When we do it, we should be good to go now. Perfect. So it's done that. I don't need the dev server just yet. So I'm going to install Prisma as a dev dependency. So npm I for install -d for dev dependency Prisma. And we're then going to, we're going to start making our database. What is going on? Why it takes so long? Okay, cool. So now we do npx prisma init, and that's going to initialize our Prisma project. It's going to give us a base schema. And what I'm going to do inside the Prisma folder, I'm going to make a db.db file. Because we're using SQLite, that's all you need to do to access a database is make a file, and that will be our database. So instead of passing this environment variable, I'm just going to pass the file. So we say file like this, and then we can just say it's in the current directory, and then we do db.db. And then of course it's not a Postgres DB, it is SQLite. And that should be good to go. One thing I want to do, I have got a document here outlining the fields that I was thinking of adding. So let me just pull those up real quick. So you can see here we have various different fields. So let's put these in our model. So to create a model in Prisma, you create a model. We're going to create a model card, and then we can start doing our fields. So if we say ID, that's going to be an integer. And what is the syntax? At default, and then is it auto increment? How do we write that? Auto increment. That doesn't look right. Yeah, so we need to mark it unique. Oh, at unique. Default is none. Okay, let me just see how you structure that. ID int we just say it's an ID field. That's one that always confuses me. Okay, so then we have got name, email, phone number, biography. So name is a string. If you've used Prisma before, you don't need to say that it's required now. Name, name, email, which is a string, phone, which is a string. We've got biography, which is a string. We want a card ID, which is the URL that's going to be served. You know, we could potentially do slugs from names and things like that, but I think for this project, we'll just do that. Twitter is a string, and GitHub is also a string. And then finally, let's add a website, which is a string. So that is our card model schema now generated. So what I want to do is, our DB is still just an empty file. We don't have a database yet. So that's what running the migration will do. It will make the raw SQL query for us. So when I'm using Windows and I do this, I need to exit out of my code editor for some reason. But then I'm going to do npx. If you get an error saying something's already in use, then just close your code editor on Windows. So npx Prisma, what are we doing? We're migrate dev, and then we can give it a name of, add card model. And that's going to create our migration, which it has done now, which we can take a look at in a second. And what it's doing now, the first time it does this, it takes a little bit of time, but it's creating the Prisma client. And the Prisma client is what we're going to use to interact with the database. So now that Prisma is set up and we have our Prisma client, let me do cd next GraphQL business card. Prisma gives us this Prisma Studio. So if we run npx Prisma Studio, we can see we've got a card model and we can see all the fields that we've added. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to add a record for myself. Richardson.dev. That's not a real email address, by the way. Hello, this is me. ID, we're going to create that ourselves, but let's just give it a random one. Twitter, twitter.com/Adam, GitHub, github.com/Adam Richardson 14, and then this is there. So we've got a record now. It's in our database. So that is all good. So I'll leave Prisma Studio open, and we're going to take a little bit of a steer now away from Prisma. We can see we've got our database, it's working. But how are we going to interact with our database? So I want to take this step a little bit slower than usual, and go through things quite slowly. So first of all, a Next.js API route. What this is essentially is whenever you create a function in here, so you export a default function, it takes in a request and a response, and it returns some stuff. And that's going to create a serverless function, which whenever anyone goes to that endpoint that we declare, the serverless function is going to run. So what we do here, we're taking in a request and a response. We want to return the response. So if I say response.status 200, that's a good response, and then I say .json, then I can say in here something like, hello world. And we can send back that JSON response whenever someone visits the API route. So if I now navigate to that localhost /API/GraphQL, we should see if the server's running, which it's not. Yeah, we should see that response come through. So let's wait for that response. And this is kind of how we would build a traditional REST API. We would have an API route that would say, get business cards. So you would go to API/get business cards, and then you would expect it to return a list of business cards. So we might go into our database. So, just write in like pseudocode. So we would, go to database and get all the cards. And then we would say here, we're going to send back those cards as that JSON response. That's kind of how a traditional REST API works. But think of it like this. If you wanted to have a blog, for example, on the index page, let's say you wanted to, on that blog, you wanted to just display the title and the slug. You know, you don't want to fetch all the data from all of your posts. You know, you could have a separate API route that literally only returned the slug and the title. But then when you go onto your blog page in your website, it's, you know what, actually I want to return everything here except the content because I want to put the author's details and things there. So then it's like, okay, how do I get the authors for the posts? Because if we've got a relationship, then, you know, do I need to go and make another network request to fetch the author's information too? And, you know, when you're building your API from scratch like this, you can absolutely work around that. So you're limiting your network requests. But with GraphQL, you don't have to. You can just define exactly what it is that you need and what it is that you want to receive. So in order to make that happen, I actually need to install this stuff. So let's install what's it called? Apollo Server Micro. And then we can install GraphQL as well. So this server is essentially what our API route is going to serve. So we're going to be using this Apollo Server Micro to deliver our GraphQL server. So we need the Apollo server from all my options. Come on. Okay, it looks like we're typing Apollo Server Micro like this. Why is it doing this? Sometimes it does this where it goes really, really slow on me. Let me just cancel that. Let me just close out VS Code and open it again. And we can try again. So if I save and format, here we go. So the way we do things in GraphQL is we have, I already explained that we have queries and mutations, which are essentially GET requests and POST requests. GraphQL is it's strongly typed. So you need to define everything in advance. And that is the first thing that we are going to do. So we're going to say, you know, these type defs, and then we need to bring in GQL from there as well. And then we'll say it's GQL, and it will look like this. So within here, we have different types. So of course, we're going to have a type for our card, which is going to have all of these properties on there. But we also need to declare all of the possible queries that we're going to make. So we have a query type like this. And then what queries are we going to want to make? So just following the example, from Apollo Server Micro, they've got a query type say hello, which is a string. We'll put that exclamation mark on the end. That's a required string. And then along with our type defs, we also need resolvers. So resolvers are, think of a resolver almost like that's what's going to interact with the database for one. So where we're returning this hello world, then, so if I just take that, where we're returning this hello world here, this is where we would do the data call to our database. So we're going to need to do one more thing. Well, a few more things actually. I'm just lying. So we're going to need to export this config with Next.js. So we're going to say, you know, body parser. We don't want to use body parser. Is false, like that. And then we need to create our Apollo server. So we can say Apollo server equals a new Apollo server. And then we pass that our type defs and our resolvers. And then we can say const handler equals Apollo server dot create handler, like this. And then this handler just takes a path. And if you're not sure what it takes, you can see that it's got good completion. And then it's going to be /API /GraphQL, like so. And finally, let's export default handler, because again, it's a Next.js function and we need to export, we need the default export for it to work. So what we're doing, let's just run through this again. So we're in advance, we're defining all of the possible queries, all of the possible mutations, and we are going to define exactly what it does. So we're saying, you know, we've got a query here, say hello, which is going to return a string, like so. We don't need that exclamation mark. So it's going to return a string, okay? So then we have a resolver, which, you know, this is saying what it should do. And then this is actually doing it. So within our resolver, we've got a query resolver, and we'll also have, you know, mutations resolver as well, because they're different. So we're saying, okay, this is our query. Let's actually do it. So we've got the say hello. It's going to return a string, which is hello world. So hopefully that is making sense. And we're given these type definitions and resolvers to our Apollo server. So if we now run our dev server, instead of seeing just a JSON response like we were sending before, what we should see, if we did everything right, is a GraphQL playground. Unexpected name query. Oh yeah, of course. So this is a type query because it's a type defs. So let's there we go. So if we just have a look at our schema, it knows everything now because we've defined it. So query, we can say hello. If you look in our docs, we've got a query, say hello, which should return a string. So if we now say, you know, query, say hello, and let's get rid of this, it returns hello world, which is exactly what we were expecting. So, okay, that's great. Now what we want to do is add in our types for the cards, for the business cards, and we're going to add in the resolver to fetch all of the cards, to fetch an individual card, and things like that. So stay tuned. Okay, so let's look at how we can bring Prisma into the mix. So we're going to import Prisma Client from Prisma Client. And we can just say Prisma equals new Prisma Client like this. So what do we want to do? So first of all, we need to define our type definitions. So we're going to need a card type. And let me see, do I have the code still up? Oh, I think it's probably easier just looking at the schema. So ID, name, email, and phone. So it's going to have an ID, which is an int, It's going to have the name, which is a string. It's going to, and yeah, these are all required. So they're going to be the name, email, phone, biography, email, which is a string, phone, which is a string, got biography, which is a string, and then we have got a card ID, which is going to be a string, and finally Twitter, GitHub, and website. String. Okay, so we have our card type. So that's good. That's a start. So what do we want to do with this card? So we want to be able to query, let's say, first of all, to get all cards like this, and that is going to return an array of cards. It's not all cards, it's going to be get cards, and that's going to return a card. And then let's go with that one for now. So then actually we've defined our model. We have said, hey, we're going to be doing this query get cards, which is going to return an array of cards. And then in our resolvers, again, we've got our queries here. So what we're going to do, if we get rid of this one, we're going to say get cards, and this needs to be an async function like this. And of course, it needs to return a card, right, somehow. So this is where we're going to do the Prisma thing. And we can do... so we could just say cards equals await Prisma dot card. So you can see the completion here. Prisma dot card dot find many. Looks about right. And I'm just going to say we want to take 10 like so. So we format that, and that is it. That will work. So if we now pull up our playground and get rid of that. Let's look at our docs. So we got a get cards query, which is returning a card. So let's have a look. So we can say query get cards like so. And if we run that, okay, so we get an error. So we need to define our subfields. That's what I talk about with the power of GraphQL. So we can say, okay, I want an ID, a name, an email, the website, the Twitter, the GitHub, the biography. What else we got? Card ID. Phone. I think that's everything. And then we can run it. So get cards is null. So do we not add? Oh. So we're not actually returning anything. So that's a problem. So yeah, what we could do, like return cards like this. Sorry about that. Okay, perfect. So we have those cards, and we can clean that up a little bit. We could do this return await Prisma, and we can actually get rid of that return statement as well, the await statement. Okay, so we're still working. And we are returning the cards. So if I just add another one, bobross@gmail.com. Let's put in an ID, whatever. We don't need to put anything in here particularly meaningful. Fine, save that change there. So we add something to the database, we do the request, and we now have 2 cards. So that is great. But what if we don't want to add cards through our database? We're going to want to do it from the front end of our website. So that's where we need our mutations. So let's do the get card. So the function get card is going to look a little different. We're going to say that this query, it needs to take an ID, which is going to be a string, which is required. And then it's going to return a card like so. So we've got that query now. So we're saying, you know, this get card, we are going to give it an ID and we want to return the card for the ID. And of course, this card here is referencing the type. So in the resolvers, let's make that happen. So we're going to say get card. This is also going to be an async function like so. Let's just add that comma. And then we can do the exact same thing. So we can do prisma.card. And then we want find unique now. And we say where, and then ID is our only unique field, which is fine. And then we're going to, so these resolvers, they have some properties here. So the first one would give us access to the parent, but we don't need that. But we do want the arguments. So this ID is going to be args.id. But if you notice, in our Prisma schema, our ID is a number. So we need to be given this as a number. So number args.id, like so. And to be fair, that should be good. So let's have a look. So query, and you will see we now have two different options, and our docs. So get card, it takes an ID which needs to be a string. Okay, cool. We can do that. So let's say get card. We are going to give it the ID, which is going to be a string, and then we'll say we want number 1. And of course, we then need to say what information do we want. So like we can just say I just want the name. And there we go. So we are now able to use the query for just finding one card. So mutation wise, what we're going to do is we're going to create an input type, even if it was exactly the same as the card, which it's not. We don't have the ID that's automatically generated for us. We need to make this input type anyway. So we need to give it all of these things, and then we're going to create a type mutation like so, and then we're going to say add card, and then okay, so what is this doing? So it's going to take in input. Sorry, this is going to be card input. So we're going to take in an input, which is going to be card input, which is required, and we're going to return a card. So relatively straightforward, hopefully. And then where we've got our resolvers, we've got a query resolver, and then we want a mutation resolver like this. And of course, we need to make the mutation now add card. So we do the same thing. So add card, it's going to be an async function. We're going to need the arguments again, like this. And okay, we're good to go. And then what we want to do with this is we will say, we want to, what do we want to do? Yeah, so we just want to return prisma.card.create, and we pass it the data, which is just going to be our args.input, like so. And that function, it's going to, so this prisma.card.create, this create method is going to return a promise, which we're going to await, and that's going to return the card. So hopefully we have done that correctly. Let me see where we're at. So with this mutation, let's give it a name. So mutation, and we'll call it add card, like this, because we're gonna say that it's gonna have an input. Have I done something wrong here? Mutation add card. Okay, mutation add card. Why is it not liking that? What is the correct syntax? Mutation. So we can do add card, which takes the input, which is going to be an input variable, like that. And then we want to return, you know, the name. Let's get the ID. But I want to, I believe we need to give it a name. So like add card like this. And also declare that input variable. Let me have a look. GraphQL mutation variables syntax. Oh, I've really looked at all of these. Blah, blah, blah. Query. There have mutations. Mutation. Yes, that's what I'm doing, is it not? Mutation. Update my. How's that different to mine? Yeah, so we've got this input variable, which is going to be card input, which is required. Okay, so it likes that one, right? So yeah, we're running the mutation, and then we are getting back, because remember, it's returning, this add card is returning a card. So it's taking a card input and it's returning a card here, you can see. So that allows us to add this extra set of curly braces and just say what we want. And then with these variables, we have got, so I was messing around with this yesterday. I just did a few things. So you can see here the errors we're getting. So we're missing a biography. Hello there, this is Adam. We're missing a, what are we missing? A Twitter. Twitter.com/Adama. We're missing a website. And what else are we missing? Card ID. Okay, so that's a mistake we've made. We don't want to give this card ID. We want to create that ourselves. So let me just finish this off. So do I need to refresh that? What if I broke it now? So yeah, card input. What was the other one that was missing? Name, email, phone, website, biography, Twitter. Oh, we need GitHub. We've got website twice. GitHub. Is that it? I mean, it's not going to work, but variable input of required type was not provided. So add card input, that's required. Input, like it's right there, come on. So input here, which was a card input. Is that the other way around? No. So input, that's required, yeah. Input required type was not provided. That is annoying. We've got our input right here. What is this? What is my error? What's it not liking? I keep trying to save it every time I'm doing anything. So this comma. Really? Okay. So argument for card ID is missing. Perfect. So it's working, but we don't have a card ID. So let me use UUID. So let's do this. npm install that. And then we want this. Let's run our dev server. And then on this mutation now, so yeah, card input, we're not expecting the card ID to be provided by the user. We're going to create that. So this data, let's just have our args.input here, and then card ID is just going to be UUID v4. So we're just going to generate that card ID. So we need to delete this folder again for some reason. Such a process on Windows to delete any folders with anything in it. Okay, so let's run our dev server, and yeah, we should be about there. So if you're not familiar with this syntax, the spread operator, it essentially is adding, we've got an object here which is args.input, but we want it to be just part of this object. So we just spread that object into this object. And then we can have the same syntax. We can just add a card ID like this. Okay, so let's give it a try. Perfect. So we added a card, and then if we refresh our Prisma Studio, you can see we've got a card, we got a massive long ID there, which is great. That's what we want. I mean, it's not ideal because it's URL, but it is good enough for this demonstration. Like I said, we could make a slug from people's names or make them choose like a URL path for their business cards, but yeah, we don't need to do that. Okay, so then another mutation that we might want is we might want to allow our users to delete a card. So if we do delete card, it's going to take an ID, which is a string, it's required, and we'll return that card that we delete. We're going to add another mutation here for delete card. Delete card. It's going to be an async function. We're going to need the argument for the ID. And we can do return prisma dot card dot delete where, and then ID is going to be the number like this, and it's going to be the args dot ID. And that is the actual ID within our database. So then in our playground, let's make a new one. So if we do a mutation like this, we want to delete a card. It's going to take the ID, and let me just say 2. And it's going to return a card. So let me just say I only want to know the name and the email. We might want to say, you've successfully deleted your account. We hit play. We've deleted the card. If we go to Prisma Studio and refresh, we no longer have Bob Ross with us anymore. So you can see how kind of quick and easy that is once you get the hang of it, to add additional functionality like deleting. And I'm not even sure we're going to add that into the front end application, but it was good to just show how you would do that. Now, of course, this file, in a normal application, you would split these out into lots of different files, for the GraphQL schema almost. And yeah, you would just import those files and pass them to the server. But yeah, like I say, we're not going to be adding anything more, I don't believe. So let's move on to actually using this stuff on the front end. All right, so onto the front end we go. We're going to be using GraphQL Request to make our requests. So let's just install that. We already did GraphQL. And one thing I'm just quickly going to do is grab the ESLint config. I'm not going to do Husky. I'm just going to grab the ESLint config from my website, so we actually get some linting on here. ESLint rc.js. Where did that just go? Oh, not this again. It's going slow again. I really need to get a new a new computer in general, really, but I need to get a bigger SSD because my SSD is full and this is running on a hard drive. So I'm not sure if that's impacting it, but I imagine it will be. And then we want the prettier file as well, so that's going to actually work and format our code when we save. Okay, let's cancel that. Let's do that, and then let's just reload the window. So cancel. Okay. There's literally nothing running. Okay. So we got this working now. The linting is all set up and working. And we have quite a few things disabled within TypeScript, but I do want some assistance, I suppose. Okay, so I didn't even think about what this app is going to look like. I guess the index page, it doesn't really matter what we're doing because we're going to have a couple of different routes on the application. We're going to need so the index page, maybe we just have a couple of links. So if I just get rid of those for now, and let's get rid of all of this as well. Yeah, so in the main section, maybe we just do class name equals flags, justify center, items center, and inside of that we can have a div and class name equals. It does that all the time with TypeScript. I need to figure out a way to change it. So what am I doing? So if we do like height, half, and width half, we can do the background of this one white, and then let's do this one width full, height, screen, and let's do BG gray 100. Let's have a look at where we're at. Inside this div, let's have a couple of links. So it's not going to auto import. So import link from next link. We can do the first one. So let's just say it's going to go to add, and here let's say add your business card, and yeah, and I mean it doesn't really make sense for the application, but we're going to do it anyway. Or we'll do search. Maybe we'll make a little directory. So we've got again the A tag, find business, find people. Add your business card, find people. Okay, not really doing what I'm wanting here. Height is screen. Do we need to do like min height is screen? Yep. Okay, and then this div. Where's my white background? So no. Height dash like 3 out of 6. Width dash 3 out of 6. Or width full. No, we can't do that. So do we need to be explicit for it to just work? Ugh. Class name equals BG white. Width full, height full. Come on, why is it not working? Okay, I don't care. So on these A tags, let's add a few class every single time. I'm going to do that every single time in the video. Let's add a few styles. So we can add, BG gray 900, text white, text large, font. We can make it semi-bold font. We can do it rounded, medium, hover. We can do BG gray 800 like that. What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Okay, cool. So that is working now. So BG wide. Can I just do like height? No, that height is fine. Can we do width half? Yeah, okay. And then let's flex those. Let's justify center, item center. In fact, no, let's just add all of that to there. Okay, great. And then we just need some padding. PX 6, PY 3. Something like that. So we have some, reasonable looking buttons. And then, yeah, let's just add like margin left 4 to this one. So add your business card, find people, yeah, whatever. I mean, it's not the most pretty application ever, but that's what we got. Text to Excel. Okay, great. So add your business card and find people. So add your business card. What do we want to do here? So we want to have a page for adding a business card, clearly. So let's add that. So let's do that. And then this one, I've got this disabled so we can do this. Normally you would need to declare your return type with TypeScript, but we have that disabled. So export default function add. So yeah, let's give that the let's give it the same ugly treatment actually. So I'm not sure we're going to be linking. Yeah, we'll keep head, whatever. We're not going to need these links. And I don't want to declare the height on this because I'm going to do a form. So then inside of here, I guess we'll do our form. And then this is where we will put all of our form fields. Input type equals text. So, yeah, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cheat just a little bit. So let me do form. So what am I looking for? No, none of these. Contact. So I just want to grab like a form that looks presentable. From here. Yeah, this one is fine. So let me grab the code for the form. Haven't really looked at this since they changed it to do React. Oh, that's so much code though. Okay, no, we're not gonna take it from here for this one. It's too much code. So let's do a div for each field. We'll give each field a label, HTML4. So this one's gonna be name. Input ID equals name. And we can wrap so we'll put name. What is going on with this? So let's do class. Okay, class name equals. So do BG gray 700 or something. It's gonna look so ugly. It's gonna be amazing. With full text white. PG gray. Let's just do 100. You know, we're gonna make it at least look a bit presentable. Okay, so then I wanted to install React hook form, and then we want to import use form from React hook form like so. So run our dev server again, and then we want to take register handle submit equals use form. Fine. And then I don't remember the syntax because it changed. React hook form getting started. Yeah, this is super weird. So on the input, we do register. Okay, I see, which takes the name, like so. And then, yeah, we want to make that required. It's true. Okay, cool. So let's have a quick look at the fields that we're going to need to give it. So yeah, if we just pull up this GraphQL here. Okay, it wants to format with ESLint. So the card input. So we've got a name. We're going to have email here, and then we can change this out to email ID. We can make that email as well. So lots of divs, but hey, it's forms. That's what we got. Phone, HTML for phone, ID of phone, and let me just copy this one so I don't have to doesn't keep getting in the way with that name. So then we've got our biography. I can change those three. Biography. And then Twitter. Hopefully I didn't make a mistake here, because I don't want to do all this again. GitHub. I mean, again, I don't want to go back and edit all of these options. And website. And then we want a button which just says add. It's not a form. Add card. And then we can give this a type equals submit. Like so. So now we should have an amazing looking form. So let's have a look. Okay, and let's just add a bit of style to that button. It pains me to look at it. Class name equals bg dash to green 500 px3 py1 rounded text white. I don't want 500 actually. I'd want 700. Gotta be accessible, right? And then yeah, we can put some margin on the top there. Awesome. I am loving the way that this is looking. So let's oh, white text. Oh, that's what I mean. I didn't want to so text gray 900. While I'm here, let's just do a couple of other styles. Rounded medium, focus. Let's do outline. Unfocus, outline, none. And we can do like focus, ring 2. And then on the focus, we can do ring dash green dash 300, something like that. Okay, and then we don't need this anymore. Okay, amazing. That is looking so much better. And margin top of 1, but then a margin bottom of 3 or something. Yeah, 0.5. We don't need that at all, actually. Okay, cool. So we got an amazing looking form now. So let's fill this out. Adam gmail.com. Yep. Hello, it's Adam. Twitter.com/Adam. Yeah, I don't really care about those. And then what we want to do now is this form. So we can just say on submit. On submit equals, we're going to do handle submit, and then we want to do on form submit, which is our own function, which doesn't exist yet. Don't worry, we're going to create it. So then we just say function. I'm going to make that an async function. Async function on form submit, which is going to take the values from our form, and we're going to console log set values. Oh no, it didn't, did it? Adam here. Hello, it's Adam. Twitter, you know, whatever. So let's just have a look in our console. So an object with our name, email, biography. Is that everything we need? Feels like it is. Name, email, phone, biography. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So, I mean, you know, we're gonna get an error if we don't do this right anyway. So, yeah, okay. Next steps is what we doing now. Oh, we need to actually submit this form to GraphQL. So I'm going to be using GraphQL Request. So did I install that already? I think I did. Yeah. So let's bring it in, and we can do this. So then in here, we are going to actually make our request. So we're going to say we want a query. So this is our mutation, to be fair. So we can say mutation equals, and then we're going to use this GQL like this, and we're going to pass it, if you remember, API. Oh, no, I don't want to leave that page. GraphQL. And we've definitely got this. So we're going to add the card like so. So these are the variables. So that's going to be our mutation. It's going to just look like that. We're going to need to, where's it ending? Yeah, so we're going to need to say const variables. That's going to be an object. It has, remember, an input variable, which is going to be our values, like so. And then we can just do this. So we want to say data equals await. Yeah, we want the GraphQL client, not request. I want to do this one. Data equals await. Is that all right? Yeah. Data equals await request. So we've got our mutation and we have got our what's it called? Variables. Like so. Why isn't it liking that? Is it clear but it's not red? Why are you lying? Oh, we need to make that GraphQL client, right? Yeah. So we say GraphQL client, and we pass it an endpoint. My bad. Okay, where we are, on submit. So the endpoint is going to be localhost 3000 /API /GraphQL. We're not going to be sending any headers. We're just going to be sending that. Const data equals await GraphQL client request mutation and variables, and then it's going to return to us. So let's console log the data. So let's see what we've broken. I don't want to. Cause did not succeed. If we just do this, is it going to be happier? Perfect. So it worked. We should have added this card. Hello, it's Adam, with all the same details. And is there still this reset function here? So we can say, so in an ideal world, you know, we'd do this sort of situation. So try catch if we get an error. So we'll do this. Const data equals await error. So let's just console log the error. Great error handling, just console log it. So then we can just say, so what is it we got back? How did it look? So we get an add card object back. Yeah, so then I can just call reset like this when we submit it. I was gonna go through some error handling, but let's not dive too deep into that right now. So if we do this, billy@gmail.com, put in a phone number. Hello, it's Billy. Twitter.com/Billy. Add card. And get our response back. We've added Billy, and we're good to go. And of course, you can add any parameters you want to get back here. We've just got the name and the ID that we want to return. But yeah, you can definitely bring in more stuff. And of course, we want to add safety to this in the sense that we don't want people signing up. We don't have multiple cards with the same email, for example. So, you know, we would start off in our Prisma schema. We could make the email a unique field to protect the database layer. And then we could also, you know, we could do it when we're doing our mutation in the resolver, where we do, where we resolve it. We can, you know, do some logic here to just double check that, you know, it doesn't exist already before we try and submit it and throw an error that way. Or we could have a query on the client that would, you know, just try and find an email with that. And if we find an email, then we won't even submit it from the client side. We won't allow that to happen. But yeah, I'm not going to particularly get into that today. I think that functionality is good. And then of course, to display this data for brevity, and we've got most of my other videos, we'll talk through displaying data in a Next.js application. So I am going to actually, let's do that. I'm going to skip that. What's this called? ID page, whatever. We don't need that. I'm going to skip this, doing like a lot of work on it. Hello. Because yeah, all my other videos, literally all of my other videos have them. So yeah, we've got, do we want to do it like that? Yeah, no, let's add a folder. Let's call it card, and let's put ID into card. So we can now go to /card/1. Well, actually, we're going to use this ID, card ID, for fetching that. Oh no, it's not that one. That one. So, okay, we're saying hello. And yeah, we can just do, let's just do it, get server side props, export cons, get server side props. We want to bring in this. So let's make this happen, and we want params from here. So I can get a const ID equals params. That should get my ID, which is coming from here. And then we need to return, that's an object. We're going to return props, which is going to be the card And then just so this works, like const card equals whatever for now. Okay, what's in a lichen? Parsing error. I expected a comma. Export oh. I'll just say that, it's fine. So let's refresh that. Not seeing an ID. Oh, it should be on the console. Do we destructure params? Card cannot be defined. Okay, I'm guessing we do then. So let's just do this. Console log params. Let me have a look at that. And then we just say card hello for now. Yeah. So I didn't like that. So const ID equals params. So we've got our ID now. So we want to just go and do the same stuff as we did here. And you know, you can extract all of this logic out. You can extract all of this out of your function here into another file to not mess it up. So let's save that, Graphql Client. So we've got the query. So let's have a look. Where's our playground? So we've got, so we're gonna do a query, get card, which is gonna take an ID, which is a string like this. Get card, ID is ID. And then I want to, I'm not going to display the ID anywhere. Name, email, phone, biography, Twitter, GitHub, and website. So we want everything. So then if I do this, say ID is 1. Did we do this one? Yeah, so we have the card, but that is actually the wrong ID. Just realized that now. So get card is taking an ID, which is a string. So get card. Okay. Yeah, I see. So to do it for the card ID, we could do, instead of find unique, let's do find first, where card ID, it's not liking that, is equal to the ID that we pass. So then if I look at card ID here, that is working now. Okay, cool, perfect. So now what we do with that, so we've got it working, is we will take this get card query. Hopefully you know where we're going with this now. So we're gonna do this query here. And we've got variables. So we've got ID, which is going to be just the ID here. You know, we could name that card ID. I think that's probably a bit more explicit. So we're going to pass in the ID variable, which is going to be card ID. And this ID here is referencing this ID here. And then we've got our endpoint. We've created our GraphQL client. So then all we need to do is data equals await. So that of course needs to be asynchronous. So we're not passing a mutation, we're passing our query, we're passing the variables, and we're going to console log the data. So let's refresh the page. Let's check our console. Only absolute URLs are supported. What's that about now? So does this want http://localhost 3000? I think it does. And I think I was getting the cause error because I was doing to HTTPS as well. Variable ID of required type string was not provided. Variables ID, card ID dot to string. Can we do that? Oh, I'm an idiot. We can't do it like that. So let's do card ID equals params.id, like that. Okay, perfect. So we have an object with the name getCard. So this data, const data is that. So I might want to say const card equals data.getCard. And then I want to return card. And then on our page, let's bring in card. And then we can return here. We can do a div and then like just do JSON.stringify card. Oh, what's it not want now? And there we have it. Our details are now on the front end. And of course you wouldn't display it like this, but it is a good start. I really wanted to focus on, making this about functionality rather than design, and making things look nice. I have plenty of videos on making things look nice. However, yeah, I just wanted this one to be focused more around GraphQL and less around the CSS stuff. So, okay, cool. That is all for today. I hope you enjoyed this and it gives you a good introduction to, building your own GraphQL server and using that with Next.js. So yeah, please don't forget to share the video and subscribe to the channel. It's really appreciated. I will see you in the next video.